Ladies and gentlemen, there is something profound about what we choose to say, not just to others, but to ourselves. The structure of your reality is dictated not only by your thoughts, but by the words you habitually speak. Your speech reflects your internal belief system, and over time it becomes your behavior. If you're constantly saying, "I can't," "I'm not ready," "I'll never make it," then your brain internalizes those phrases as commands. It wires your neural structure to reflect failure, doubt, and helplessness. But here's the truth. If you want to change your life, you must first change your language. There are 10 phrases, simple yet potent, that, if spoken daily, can transform your perception and reprogram your mind for discipline, achievement, and self-respect. These aren't magical incantations. They are anchors, psychological tools to recondition your emotional response and redirect your energy toward purposeful action. Say this: I am responsible for my life. Responsibility is the root of strength. When you own your failures, your circumstances, and your next steps, you step into agency. You're no longer a victim of life. You're its architect. Say this: I choose progress over perfection. Perfection is a myth used to justify procrastination. Progress is measurable. Progress compounds. When you repeat this, you train your brain to value motion over fear, effort over hesitation. Say this: my discomfort is temporary, my growth is permanent. Every time you face fear, every time you choose challenge over comfort, your brain evolves. Your limits expand. You become stronger not in fantasy, but in form. Say this: I am capable of doing difficult things. Don't wait to feel confident. Speak confidence into existence. When you affirm this out loud, your nervous system calms. You signal to your brain, we are safe. We are strong. We can do this. Say this: I act with purpose, not emotion. Emotions are signals, not commands. Success requires the capacity to act through discipline, not mood. When you affirm this daily, your brain learns to delay gratification and make strategic decisions. Say this: I am becoming better every day in every way. This phrase acknowledges the journey. It reminds you that you're not who you were yesterday and not yet who you will become tomorrow, but you're moving steadily, deliberately. Say this: obstacles are training grounds for greatness. If you see hardship as injustice, you'll become bitter. If you see hardship as training, you'll become unbreakable. Frame matters. Interpretation matters. Speak resilience. Say this: I protect my energy and focus. You are not available for every drama. Not every invitation is worth accepting. When you speak this aloud, you take ownership of your attention, your most valuable currency. Say this: I am worthy of success and peace. Success is not something reserved for the elite or the lucky. It's the result of focus, repetition, and inner belief. Speak your worth, and you will begin to behave as though you believe it. Say this: today I will do what needs to be done. Action beats intention every time. The discipline of saying this daily reminds your brain we don't wait for motivation. We create results by doing what is necessary. These 10 phrases are not about blind positivity. They're not about pretending life is easy. They're about programming your consciousness to face life with courage, strategy, and truth. When you repeat these every day, you rewire your brain's default setting from fear to focus, from chaos to clarity. Speak them deliberately. Speak them slowly. Speak them until they become second nature. Because when your words change, your thoughts change. And when your thoughts change, your life follows. Language is not merely a tool for communication. It is the very architecture through which we construct meaning, identity, and possibility. The words we use, especially those we speak to ourselves, shape our perception of reality in profound ways. Consider this: before a person takes action, before they even develop a plan, they begin with a thought. That thought is most often formed and organized through language. When you speak something aloud, you give that thought structure and commitment. You make it real. So when you continually speak words of defeat, limitation, or self-doubt, you're not just expressing a mood, you are reinforcing a belief system. You are programming your mind to expect and accept mediocrity, failure, or helplessness as a natural state of being. This is why intentional language matters. It's not about fluffy affirmations or fake positivity. It's about precision. The human brain filters information based on what it has been taught to value or expect. If you consistently say things like, I can't do this, or I'm not smart enough, or I always mess up, your mind will look for evidence to confirm those statements. That's how powerful language is. It activates a cognitive bias that either limits or expands what you see, feel, and believe to be possible. But when you flip the script, when you start saying things like, I am capable, I can figure this out, or I grow stronger through effort, you signal to your brain that a different reality is possible, one rooted in potential and personal responsibility. Over time, this doesn't just change how you feel, it alters the way your brain interprets your entire environment. Our perception of reality is not neutral. It is shaped by filters, emotional, psychological, and linguistic, And if those filters are distorted by years of negative self-talk, trauma, or societal conditioning, then your view of what's possible becomes tragically narrow. That's why structured, powerful language must become part of your daily discipline. If you don't deliberately create the internal narrative, then someone else, your past, your failures, or the world around you will create it for you. Every day, you must speak language that expands you. Language that focuses your attention, organizes your chaos, and pulls you out of the mental fog. You must become precise in your speech, not just for others to understand you, but so that you can understand yourself. Because if you can articulate what you believe, what you want, and what you stand for, then you can begin to act in alignment with those truths. Clarity of language precedes clarity of action, and clarity of action leads to meaningful results. So choose your words wisely, speak with intent, and understand that every phrase you repeat, whether consciously or unconsciously, is either pushing you closer to the life you want or anchoring you in the one you're trying to escape. Speak power, speak truth. Speak the kind of language that shapes a higher version of who you are becoming. Repetition is not just a habit, it is a mechanism by which the brain is sculpted and rewired. Your thoughts, behaviors, and even emotions are shaped by the neural pathways that become dominant in your mind, and those pathways are formed by repeated exposure, especially through language. What you say to yourself every day becomes not only your belief, but your default way of interpreting reality. Think of the brain like a dense forest. The more often you walk a certain path through that forest, the clearer and more accessible it becomes. Similarly, when you repeatedly speak empowering, growth-oriented phrases, you are carving out new trails in your neural structure. These trails are more than just ideas. They become actual networks of thought and behavior that make it easier to act in alignment with success, focus, and strength. This is not wishful thinking, it is neuroscience. Studies in neuroplasticity have shown that the brain can be physically altered through consistent practice and repetition. That means when you speak affirmations like, I am disciplined, I can learn anything, or I overcome challenges, you're not just making yourself feel better, you're training your brain to adopt those truths as its operating system. Over time, what once felt like a stretch or a lie begins to feel natural and automatic. Your identity slowly aligns with the language you use. And because your brain thrives on patterns, the more you reinforce a specific message, the more easily that message is triggered when you face difficulty or uncertainty. But it's not just about what you say it. It's about how often you say it. A one-time motivational boost won't rewire anything. Just like going to the gym once doesn't build muscle, speaking a powerful phrase one time won't change your internal reality. It's the discipline of daily repetition that creates the shift. It's when you say, I am calm under pressure, every day that your mind begins to internalize that state of being. Then, when stress shows up, your brain recalls the pattern and responds with calm instead of panic. That's the real value of repetition. It builds a mental reflex for success. The process may feel awkward at first. Your brain might reject the new message. It might whisper back, that's not true, or you're not that person. But those thoughts are simply the echoes of old programming, and the only way to overwrite them is through deliberate, repeated speech. Your consistency proves to your subconscious that this new identity is not a lie, it is a choice. Over time, this choice becomes your truth, so speak the phrases even when they feel uncomfortable. Speak them when you're tired, when you doubt yourself, and especially when the old patterns try to pull you back. Because repetition is the bridge between who you are and who you can become. It's how ordinary thoughts become extraordinary beliefs. And those beliefs, repeated and reinforced, become your reality. Your identity is not fixed. It's a story you keep telling yourself. That story is built word by word through the phrases you speak every day. If you tell yourself that you're weak, unlucky, or incapable, then that becomes the lens through which you interpret every experience. On the other hand, if you consistently speak words that affirm your strength, resilience, and growth, your mind will begin to shift, slowly but surely, toward that higher version of yourself. This isn't about lying to yourself. It's about choosing which version of yourself you're going to empower, the version that stays stuck or the version that grows. The key to long-term transformation lies in the consistent reinforcement of a new internal narrative. When you say, I take responsibility for my life, or I choose progress over perfection, you are doing more than just motivating yourself. You are confronting the lies that have been holding you back. Because somewhere along the way, you internalize messages from society, from failure, from pain. You began to believe that your identity was carved in stone. But it's not. The truth is your identity is flexible. It is shaped by your choices. And one of the most powerful choices you can make is to align your daily language with the person you want to become. Think of identity like a compass. If it's pointing in the wrong direction, No matter how fast you move, you'll never reach your destination. Your words are the needle on that compass. When you consistently speak truth, courage, and discipline into your life, you realign your internal compass to match your goals. The more you say it, the more your actions start to match. Eventually, people around you start to respond to this new version of you, not because you told them who you are, but because your consistency proved it. You didn't need to convince them. You lived it, but don't expect instant results. Identity change takes time, and the resistance you feel in the beginning is normal. That's the old story fighting to survive. It wants to keep you in familiar territory, even if that territory is filled with fear and regret. Your job is to be more committed to the future than to the past. Every time you speak a phrase that supports your desired identity, you're casting a vote for the person you want to be. One phrase won't do it, but thousands over time will create a tipping point. That's when your new identity becomes the default, not through magic, but through discipline. So yes, language matters. Not just what you say to others, but what you say to yourself when no one is watching. That's where the real transformation begins. The person who becomes extraordinary is not the one who waits for a perfect moment. It's the one who builds an identity brick by brick, word by word, day after day. They speak the right words until they start to believe them. Then they act on them. And eventually they become them. That's how identity is built from the inside out. There is a profound psychological principle that often gets overlooked in everyday life. The brain follows what the mind focuses on. What this means is simple but powerful. Whatever you consistently direct your thoughts toward, your mind starts to prioritize, amplify, and seek out. It's a mechanism called the reticular activating system, a filter in the brain that determines what information is considered important. When you start consciously using empowering phrases daily, like I am becoming more focused, I attract solutions, or I act with courage, you begin training your brain to focus on opportunities, not problems, progress, not stagnation. And over time, this practice alters how you perceive the world, not because the world has changed, but because your attention has. The truth is, most people are mentally tuned into the frequency of limitation. They've spent years focusing on what's missing, what's wrong, or what might go badly. Their inner dialogue constantly affirms fear, scarcity, and self-doubt. As a result, even when good things happen, they don't notice or capitalize on them because their mental filter blocks them out. Now imagine switching that filter. Imagine if every day you reinforced language that told your brain, look for growth, spot possibilities, or I'm capable of handling hard things. Eventually, that becomes your new filter. And because the brain is always scanning for what it's told is important, it begins highlighting ideas, solutions, and strategies that support your success. This isn't just motivational hype. It's grounded in how cognition and attention actually work. Your conscious mind is limited in how much it can process at once. That's why what you repeatedly say, what you affirm, gives your subconscious a blueprint for what matters. And once your subconscious is aligned, your actions begin to follow without force. You start noticing the book that could help you, the person who could support you, the pattern that needs breaking, all because your brain was trained to look for them. Without this shift in attention, even the most capable person can remain stuck in self-imposed blindness. But none of this works if the language is empty or passive. That's why the phrases you speak must be active, deliberate, and grounded in responsibility. You're not just whispering fantasies to yourself, you're programming focus. A phrase like, I control my reactions, tells your mind to take ownership. I build discipline daily, instructs your brain to find ways to practice restraint and effort. These aren't just words, they're commands. And over time, with enough repetition, your mind adapts. Focus follows language. And where your focus goes, energy flows. When you wake up and intentionally speak phrases that point you toward who you want to become, you're doing more than just starting the day with optimism. You're setting your internal compass. And if you do this daily, even imperfectly, that compass will guide you through confusion, distraction, and fear. Eventually, the storm around you won't matter as much, because your focus will be anchored. That's the power of intentional language. It doesn't change what you face, but it changes how you face it. And that changes everything. The phrases you speak to yourself every day do more than just fill the silence in your mind. They create patterns, reinforce expectations, and even establish the emotional tone of your life. Repeated language, especially emotionally charged language, sets the foundation for your belief systems. And beliefs, whether empowering or limiting, become self-fulfilling. If you continually say, I can't handle this, your mind begins to close off to solutions and possibilities. But if you shift that language, even slightly, to I will find a way through this, your brain shifts with it. It begins to open, explore, and adapt. This is the secret most people never understand. Language is not just a reflection of your beliefs, it is the architect of them. When you make a conscious effort to speak success-oriented phrases every day, you begin rewiring the association between challenge and your internal response. You no longer default to helplessness or panic. Instead, your repeated language builds a reflex of resilience. For example, if you repeatedly say, "I remain calm in chaos," your nervous system starts to expect calm as a baseline even when pressure hits. The phrase becomes more than just words, it becomes a command to the body and brain. Over time, that command becomes automatic, and what used to trigger you begins to feel manageable. This is how the cycle of transformation begins. From speech to thought, thought to emotion, and emotion to action. The key is emotional consistency. You can't just say these phrases with hollow intent. You must say them with feeling, presence, and repetition. That's when they begin to sink in. That's when your subconscious begins to take them seriously. It's no different than lifting weights. You don't get strong by lifting once, you get strong by doing the reps. These phrases are mental reps, they are spiritual reps. They are the training ground for the kind of emotional strength that doesn't crumble under stress. Most people let their internal dialogue run wild. They don't audit their thoughts. They allow fear, doubt, regret, and insecurity to dominate the airwaves of their mind. But you are not most people. If you're reading this, it means you've decided to take responsibility for what enters your mind and what comes out of your mouth. And when you do that, everything changes. Because once you take control of your language, you take control of your focus. And when you control your focus, you control your life. You don't need magic, you need discipline. You need to commit to the practice of speaking power even when you feel weak. You need to say, "I choose growth," even when everything in you wants to shut down. That's how real transformation happens, not by waiting for motivation to show up, but by training your brain to expect victory through repeated declarations of intent. This is how winners are built. This is how belief systems are broken and rebuilt stronger, not by chance, but by choice, one phrase at a time. Repetition is not just a habit, it is the method through which the brain learns, internalizes, and finally integrates new patterns of thought. When you speak a phrase once, it may feel inspiring in the moment, but its impact is fleeting. The mind doesn't shift from a single burst of motivation. True transformation, the kind that reshapes your entire mindset and behavior, happens through consistent, deliberate repetition. Each time you repeat a powerful phrase, especially with emotion and intent, you deepen a mental groove, creating a neurological pathway that becomes easier and faster to access. That's how beliefs are formed, not in a day, but through repeated exposure to the same idea until it becomes part of your subconscious programming. Think of it like this: your mind is a garden and your words are the seeds. The more you plant a specific phrase, "I am capable," "I rise after every fall," "I grow stronger through adversity," the more that belief takes root in the soil of your psyche. But repetition without care is useless. You can't water your weeds and expect flowers to bloom. If you're repeating phrases that diminish your value, doubt your potential, or glorify victimhood, your mind will grow those too. That's why intentional repetition matters. You must be ruthless about the words you allow to echo in your mind, because whatever you repeat, you will start to believe. And what you believe, you will act upon. And those actions will shape your reality. This is why affirmations work, but only when combined with awareness and consistency. If you repeat, "I am confident," but then avoid every opportunity to practice courage, your brain detects the inconsistency. It rejects the phrase as a lie, but if you repeat it and back it up with aligned action, even small steps, your subconscious begins to accept it. That's when a shift happens. Not just mentally, but emotionally and physically. You begin to feel like the person you keep telling yourself you are. Not because you're faking it, but because you've trained it. The greatest minds throughout history have understood the power of repeated thoughts. Whether in the form of mantras, prayers, declarations, or meditations, the principle is the same. Repetition builds focus, clarity, and inner strength. It doesn't take hours a day, but it does take discipline. 5 minutes of focused repetition each morning and evening can do more for your mindset than hours of scrolling through noise and distraction. It's not about volume, it's about depth. Speak fewer phrases, but speak them with greater conviction. Let them sink in. Let them become part of who you are. And when doubt creeps in, as it always does, don't fight it with willpower alone. Fight it with trained thoughts. Go back to the phrases that built your foundation. Repeat them again. Say them out loud. Write them down. Speak them with the same seriousness you'd give to a promise. Because that's what they are, promises to yourself. Promises that you are becoming more than what you were. And with enough repetition, those promises become your reality. One phrase at a time, one day at a time. That is how the mind is rewired. That is how lives are rebuilt.